Well, there appears to be some definitive answers, and some of it's reassuring with regards to several different neurological problems, but not autism, which is the question that a lot of people have. That autism wasn't specifically looked at in this study, and those results are expected out in about a year or so. But they tried to figure out whether thimerosal, which is this mercury preservative that used to be found in a lot of childhood vaccines, was related to about 42 different neurological disorders. And the answer seemed to come back no. About 1,000 children were studied over a period of time, looking specifically at mercury levels, looking specifically for some of these things: speech, language skill problems, motor coordination problems, intelligence problems. And besides one interesting finding, all these seem to be negative. They did seem to find that boys who had higher levels of mercury were more likely to have problems with tic disorders, where they might have motor problems or some sort of speech issue with a tic type thing. But besides that, it seemed to be pretty reassuring.
Well, that's good. But isn't thimerosal an ingredient that used to be in vaccines? I mean, can kids still be exposed to it now?
Well, it used to be, and it was taken out right around 2001 in most childhood vaccines. There's about 14 different vaccines that children might receive, and thimerosal is not found in those anymore. It is found in some of the flu shots, though, still. Now, you may remember, Heidi, you and I talked about the fact that the flu nasal mist is actually approved now for children under the age of 2 as well. That doesn't have thimerosal in it, so they have options as far as not getting the mercury preservative if the parents don't want them to have it.
What about any negative effects, though, of actually taking this particular preservative, thimerosal, out of the vaccines?
Well, you know, it's an interesting question because, you know, thimerosal was around since the 1930s, and the whole idea was that these vaccines could be exposed to bacterial infections. So you needed some sort of good preservative to give it a longer shelf life, and thimerosal, you know, derivative of mercury, seemed to be a pretty good option at that point. It hasn't been in there for some time, and there doesn't seem to be any uptick in terms of infecting these vaccines at all. There's other options now that they have in terms of keeping those vaccines safe. So I really haven't seen the negative effects. Obviously, there's a huge psychological effect. A lot of people believe that thimerosal is linked to several different things, and the fact that it was taken out was sort of an indictment of those vaccines, and that's something that obviously circulates. A lot of people talk about that still today.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, you know, this study really didn't look at autism, and there has been, you know, a lot of discussion about whether or not it's possible that children who end up with autism may have gotten it from some type of vaccine. Are there going to be more studies that will directly focus on whether or not that might be the case?
Yeah, there are going to be more studies. In fact, the same group is planning another study, and the results specifically looking at thimerosal and autism, that study should be out in about a year or so. A lot of people believe exactly what you're saying, that it either caused autism or sort of triggered autism or something like that. And I have to tell you that, you know, after talking to some of the researchers, looking at the data, I'm not sure that this study that's coming out in a year will definitively answer this for a lot of people out there who are going to believe this no matter what. But, you know, at least it's going to be more data actually pointing in one direction or another. We don't know what the study's going to show yet, but I think it's going to be more definitive than some of the existing studies already out there.
Well, that would be good. I can only imagine, you know, people looking at this and saying, well, my child was perfectly healthy. I took him in for the vaccine, and now they're not.
Well, it's so complicated, and you and I both have children, and you know, I thought about it a lot as my older daughter was getting her shots. I mean, I think a lot of people do think about this, but the overwhelming evidence to date, at least the scientific evidence, suggests that it does not appear to be a link between thimerosal and autism.